Springfield's Talk 1041. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the show. My name is Nick Reed. Big elections last night in Texas, the one that most people had a lot of interest in. Of course, that U.S. Senate race, that runoff to unseat longtime serving Republican leader John Cornyn against Paxton, and it was a shellacking. I can tell you this. It was not because of Trump's endorsement. Now, it's nothing against Trump at all. You don't win by this margin because of an endorsement, even from Donald Trump. If Paxton won by 1, 2, 3, 4 points or so, then the establishment could get all angry at Donald Trump and claim that it was because of him that their guy Cornyn ended up losing. These numbers, now with 97.8% of votes counted, Ken Paxton receiving 63.8%. John Cornyn only 36.2%. I mean, that is a massive defeat. And I'll go so far as to tell you this also. With that sort of margin, Trump could have endorsed Cornyn and Paxton still would have won. Republicans in Texas demonstrated that they do not want to go back to the days of the establishment Republican Party being in charge. They're done with it. They're done with the loser party. They're done with Republican establishment elected officials saying, elect me to get done the things you want done, and then getting up there and explaining why we can't get them done. Explaining why it is, well, we don't have the numbers, or we got to do this. And it, given the Republicans constantly are subject to Democrats having the attitude of hell or high water, we're going to charge this mountain and we don't care what it takes. We're going to win. We don't care. And then and Republicans are subject to the Cornyns. Well, now you've got to understand the rules in the Senate, and we don't have 60, and well, the traditions of this and that, and it's done for a lot of people. I thought it was interesting. Cornyn, in his concession speech, he essentially gave all the credit to Donald Trump. Donald Trump, forget the exact words he used, but essentially he's the most powerful endorser ever. So that's a cop-out. I know, obviously, Trump, he's going to want to take credit for it. A lot of Trump supporters love to see that sort of result. But it is a cop-out for the Republican establishment to try and couch this as totally Donald Trump, because that allows them to place the blame on him instead of taking responsibility for themselves. You don't lose 2-1 because of an endorsement even coming from Donald Trump. I think the Massey race is an example of that, and the fact that it was as close as it was. And think about how, you want to talk about not just an endorsement for someone, but against someone. In fact, most people nationally, many of you that are familiar with Massey, do you even know the name of the guy who won? That Trump endorsed? Probably not. Because it wasn't so much about that guy as it was anti-Massey. And just really targeting that guy as being the worst thing ever, and the standard sort of over-the-top rhetoric, and anti-MAGA and anti-everything Donald Trump, anti-everything Republican, and it was a pretty close race. Trump didn't hit exceptionally hard at Cornyn at all. He's just like, hey, I think Paxton's probably the best guy moving forward. That was like a week ago. It certainly, I mean, it wasn't casual in nature. It was a big news cycle announcement, and it caused some shockwaves through the establishment, particularly given that a lot of people who are supporters of Donald Trump were fearing that he would support Cornyn. The fact that Cornyn lost by so much is something the establishment and Cornyn, they're going to want you to believe it's all Donald Trump. It's all Donald Trump. And the media as well, because that allows them to absolve themselves. Say, see, it's nothing we could have done, when in fact it was all they're doing. Which is why Donald Trump supported Paxton. It's very telling. We're going to get an update on the latest news here. So Cornyn won 2 counties. Cornyn won 2 counties. The county that has Austin, which is liberal. He didn't win that by much. And then there's one other county, and I think the vote count, it's a very, very, very sparsely populated county. And I want to say it was 6 votes to 2, 8 people voted total. Other than that, every county went to Paxton. And it's not a coincidence that the counties that border the border had massive wins for Paxton. We're going to go over some of that, and then some of the other races in there as well. And, of course, there's so much more throughout the morning as we just kick things off. The Pyramid Roofing Company text line 447-KSGF. I'm Nick Reed.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see a slight chance for afternoon showers, otherwise partly sunny with a high near 82. Tonight a chance of showers and thunderstorms with a low around 64. For your Thursday, a 70% chance of showers and thunderstorms with a high near 79. And taking a look at Friday, a 90% chance of showers and thunderstorms with a high near 78.
Springfield's Talk 1041. I am Nick Reed. The Pyramid Roofing Company text line 447 KSGF. This Senate primary runoff in Texas is very telling, and it is not good for the establishment. This shows that, if you want to call it MAGA country, it's residual. This is not something that's going to go away because of Donald Trump. When Donald Trump goes away, Republican voters are not going to go back to being the good little Republican voters that vote for the safe Mitt Romney, John Cornyn, John McCain, Bob Dole style candidate that we're told will reach across the aisle and doesn't say mean things, so we don't have to worry about alienating people, and will somehow, this fanciful world of winning over Democrats because, that ability to compromise, that's what people really want. Those days are over. And that isn't to say that there aren't people like that who exist. And it also doesn't mean that those voters expect Republicans to constantly be sending out messages on truth or calling Democrats, or frankly, I think probably most Trump supporters would be perfectly fine with that stuff going away. They miss the humor part of it at times and some of the memes that go out. But the days of no longer expecting Republicans to be fighters for so many of the voters, those days are over. And they're over because the voters got a taste of what it's like to win. And win in a meaningful way, not because, Democrats just cycled themselves out, and so now Republicans are in charge for a little while, and then they'll cycle themselves out, and it's just all part of the dance. See, and I can speak from my own experience, and this may resonate with some of you as well. I'd watch Republicans get in charge, and then, although there would be potentially some meaningful things, there was nothing that was ever inspiring. Democrats, however, I watch them completely begin the destruction of our entire healthcare system, the greatest healthcare system in the world, the healthcare system that the wealthiest people from across the planet would come here to get their healthcare. And watch them get power and strong arm a couple of so-called moderate Democrats in order to get Obamacare put in place. This was something that, to some degree, they tried to open the door in the early 90s with the Clinton administration. Hillary Care, it would be called, because she was given that as a little side project. And after the attempt to begin nationalized government-run health care, and it failed. It failed miserably. I mean, Democrats bailed on it. And Republicans, it helped usher in Republican control for the first time in generations, and so Democrats backed away for a bit. But when Obama came along, they're like, you know what? Let's have another whack at this thing. We're going to get this thing started. Now, this is something that is the antithesis of everything that makes America great. It is revolutionary in a horrific way because it's taking what universally is recognized as the single greatest healthcare system in the entire world and saying, let's move towards what Cuba does. Let's move towards what the Soviet Union did. It is what many would consider to be an almost insurmountable goal to achieve, yet Democrats did it. And while it has been horrific for us, and many of those same Democrats today are running around saying that we have to fix the system that they broke, it was this massive achievement. It was just this huge Olympian goal. And with Republicans, until Trump came along, as voters, really never had anything like that. I would say that if you're trying to think of equivalent results in terms of making real, true, massive, meaningful results, but for the better, border security. Like within 48 hours, Trump locked that thing up. There's some other things, the Abraham Accords you can look at, and of course, after the presidency, much of these things will fall out, and some will seem less consequential, while others will seem more consequential. Trump gave Republican voters a taste of what it's like to win, not just an election, but have actual meaningful results from a win that Republican voters had, for the longest time, felt that only Democrats got to enjoy. They don't want to go back. They don't want to go back to a party that says, well, it's 80-20 and everybody wants to get this Save America Act to secure our vote, but, you just got to understand it's not in the cards, everyone. John Cornyn was one of the individuals that fought against the sort of border security we have today. John Cornyn is one of the individuals that fought for reaching across the aisle, common sense gun control laws with Democrats. Cornyn was one of the individuals that on the Senate floor referred to Republicans when they voted to get rid of McCarthy because he was another loser in terms of meaningful results. Said that they were tantamount to terrorists. This is all the while that you had Democrats leading the charge, pointing the finger, calling Republicans terrorists and comparing January 6ers to terrorists. Worst thing since 9/11. John Cornyn used the same language. And then when his voters that want the Second Amendment recognized and respected, that wanted border security, that don't want to be called terrorists just because they want something done, when they're like, maybe we want someone different. That's not Donald Trump's endorsement that did that. Doesn't hurt. You don't lose the establishment, they lost this thing. By the way, you want to look at how successful betraying Trump and reaching across the aisle is. People like Susan Collins, she's one. Murkowski is another, but Collins really leads the charge of proving the value of reaching across the aisle in order to work with Democrats. The current polling has a Nazi Democrat leading her by 7 points. Boy, that reaching across the aisle really has won her a lot of favor with Democrats, hasn't? Now, I don't think that's going to hold. She's been behind in the polls before. But it really does put into perspective all of this complete BS that the establishment shovels out about compromising, reaching across the aisle. That's how you win over blue-collar Democrat voters. When Donald Trump is the one who tidal waved in blue-collar voters. And Susan Collins can't get within 5 percentage points of a guy who openly says rape victims need to take some responsibility for themselves and not drink around people they don't know if they don't want to get raped, among others of his favorites, in a Democrat state. Some of these, just to give you an idea. Yeah, let's see. Cornyn won 2 counties. Travis County, which has Austin, liberal county, 52.7 to 47.3, so it wasn't that big of a margin. And then down Kennedy County, which is a very, very sparsely populated county, he won there 75%, but he got 6 votes. Paxton got 2. Not a lot of voters down in that area. But you scroll through these the border counties. See Paxson 73%, Cornyn 26. Paxson 75%, Cornyn 25. 68 to 30. Got they're all at the very least 2 to 3. This one's 80 to 20. 68 to 31. 75 to 25. Republican voters are tired of the establishment. And listen, there are some parts of the country that don't necessarily feel the extreme negative impacts of Democrat policies and don't necessarily feel directly the positive impacts of Trump country. And so they can get away with reaching across the aisle and continuing to get reelected. In fact, in some parts of the country, that is what they have to do. Texas ain't one of them, because you have all of those people, particularly those who live around the border, who directly and oftentimes severely are impacted by these issues. And these aren't issues they want to compromise any longer, because they don't want to compromise with their lives. They don't want to compromise with their security. So John Cornyn, Thune, the Republican establishment, they can blame, and I'm sure they're going to, though. They're going to give Donald Trump all the credit in the world, because that allows them to be absolved from any responsibility they have in losing. We got traffic, but I did want to mention just a couple of other notations from the Texas primary runoffs yesterday. Chip Roy, which a lot of you know, conservative caucus guy, he was running for attorney general in Texas, and Trump had not weighed in on that. Chip Roy did not beat the state senator Mays Middleton, who also was vying for that. And I'm sure you can imagine, both really campaigned as the most MAGA guy that existed. The House Democrat Al Green, the guy with the cane that always screams and
Yes.
waves it, he's out.
I know.
Yeah.
Good.
So he got ousted by Representative Christian Manafeet. Now this is primary, and some of these are Democrats running against Democrats because of the redistricting that took place. And so, unfortunately, Al Green
Who will attempt to impeach Trump now?
I
Who will
know.
take his place?
I mean, yeah, and who's going to shake his cane while screaming at the
And
sky?
hold stupid signs.
Yep.
Get kicked out of State of the Union
Well,
addresses.
I'm sure that the Democrats can find someone in their caucus to take on that. And then, sadly, Maureen Galindo, this is the Democrat who called for, or said that if she got elected, she would turn an ICE facility into a place to imprison former border secure individuals and Zionists, a.k.a. Jews. She unfortunately lost her primary there as well. So maybe, I don't know, maybe she can run for the Senate next time around, because this is the new pathway for the Democrat Party.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see a slight chance for afternoon showers, otherwise partly sunny with a high near 82. Tonight, a chance of showers and thunderstorms with a low around 64. For your Thursday, a 70% chance of showers and thunderstorms with a high near 79. And taking a look at Friday, a 90% chance of showers and thunderstorms with a high near 78.
So I wanted to mention that Ost Family Racing, they're going to be in Springfield this upcoming week, May 30th. So that would be Saturday, is that right?
I believe so.
And they should have all three cars there. They will have a big, if you go to the race, and they're obviously going to be there, but they'll have a big banner set up for the AR-15 raffle that they are doing. And
they're doing that with Quick Draw Gun.
Yep, they're doing that with Quick Draw
Good
Gun.
people down there.
They are fantastic people. Tickets are $5 each or 24/6, and the raffle will happen later in the year. And so that's an opportunity for you. Of course, you can reach out through social media if you want to connect with them that way and purchase some that way. But if you happen to be at the race and you're thinking, oh, I'd like to purchase one, just look for that sign. And like I said, they're expecting to have all three of their cars there racing on the 30th. I also wanted to mention, sort of offhand, I suppose, we've had a lot of conversations over the years about really bad experiences when it comes to treatment, medical treatment at the two major hospitals in the area. And it's not general. It's sort of similar to failure of education and teachers, and generally it's not the teachers that are the problem, though sometimes you do have problematic teachers, but it's just the top-down problem and the handcuffing of teachers to actually teach. And increasingly, as government gets more involved in medicine, you get more of those results in which government is making the decisions instead of the doctors making the decision. And it's just, it becomes what separated us from so many other countries, the reason that we were the leading force in the world, because we weren't that way, but we decided in our brilliant wisdom, once Obama and the Democrats got in charge of everything, to switch to a system that has universally resulted in much poorer results, much more expensive medicine. I love you hear these ads. We spend more per, this and that, and we need free this and that. Like, what happened to Obamacare? I don't want to get too far off the point. Excuse me. Oh, I had some spittle go down. I'm not getting choked up, I promise. This isn't an emotional thing that I'm going to talk to you about.
Speaking of medical care,
yeah, I know, right?
Do you need some?
So it's just we just talked about how it's gotten worse and worse and worse. So, we currently utilize Cox. And Cox a few months ago rolled out a new app. And with that always comes, because you're using not really an app before, but I don't know that there was an app version before, but you had I forget what they call it, but, you log in and then that's where you get your test results and all of this sort of stuff. And it was somewhat clunky. But the thing that I always found so frustrating, and almost unacceptable, is every time you could go in every single day for something, and every single day you would have to update your insurance. You would have to do all of this stuff. It's like, how do you all not have this? Like, I was just here. There was an instance in which I got a print off in one area of the office. This was for the girl child. I think it was for the girl child anyhow. And then they asked me on the way out if I could give it to the front desk so they could scan it in on their end. And I'm thinking to myself, can this possibly be almost seemingly deliberately more inefficient? It just was so frustrating, especially the going in, you have to fill out those forms every single time. I'm like, do you not keep this stuff? So they unveiled this new app. Anytime you have a new app and you have to sign up, and then, of course, you're just like, ugh, and people don't know, they're not in the loop, and so they try to log into their old account, and they can't get in, and they're frustrated. And so you have this extreme learning curve in which it's worse before it potentially gets better. And it did cause some hiccups if you had to deal with Cox in that little interim of time. They're like, hey, really sorry, we're trying to look it up, but we're in the middle of the transition. Like, I get it, I understand that. I've utilized it in what I would say its full working capacity. I think they seemingly have all of this stuff, the kinks worked out. And it is, in just my experience, 1,000 times better than the previous experience. I honestly, to myself, I thought did they commission people who make fast food restaurant apps for this thing? Because it is working so well. This is just to give you, and some of you, I don't know, may also have had to utilize the app and have a totally different experience. But I just felt it was worthy of praise because Lord knows there's a lot to complain about. And I just, think that it deserves praise whenever, something goes well. And so the app, and I get a little, hey, you got an upcoming appointment. Yep. Hey, do you want to go ahead and, sort of update some information? So scroll through updated information. Then when I get there, I can check in on the app, and I walk in, and the gal's like, can I help you? And I said, yeah, I checked in on the app. And she goes, name? She goes, yep, you're all checked in. Someone will be here in just a second. And then like 30 seconds later, somebody comes out. It just, everything seemed to move so quickly. I didn't have to refill out any sort of forms whatsoever. All of those questions that I had in my mind about, why do I have to do this? Why is it this way? It was just all magically solved. And that doesn't mean, of course, that every future experience is going to be incredible. Insurance issues. I have the worst problem with we have secondary insurance that is supposed to cover some of the stuff that the primary insurance doesn't. And one of the problems we've always had is they always lose it. Always lose it. I mean, it matter in the past how many, here it is, you got, okay, we'll put it in the system, and the next time around, it doesn't get activated. And so I would call, and they're like, well, we don't have that in our system. I was able just to put it in the app. Like, oh, add it, boom, take a picture of my card, boom. And then they're like, oh, yeah, we see it here, no problem at all. And it's there. It's like there now. And I just was very, very, very pleased with the Cox, whatever it's called, My Health, I think is what the app is called. But that new app they have, and it just, in my experience, has made such a tremendous difference. And the stress and anxiety just out of aggravation, I realized wasn't there any longer. And so I hope other people have the experience, and I really hope that it does make at least that portion of medicine and making appointments and getting information and contacting your physician, that it just, at least that part of medicine that they can control, everyone, I hope, experiences a much more efficient system like I did, because I thought this is really nice. And so I wanted to mention it because, as I said, we do spend a lot of time focusing on the areas that need to be fixed. And so when there is an area that seems to be tremendously better, I thought it was worthy of notation. Now, I know I probably get a lot of emails and text messages from a lot of people who have had the opposite experience. I hope not, just for the sake of everyone. But that has been my experience thus far with that new app through the Cox system. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. I want a great homeloan.com. If you want a great home loan, that's where you go. It's pretty easy. It's on the internet. I want a great homeloan.com. Refinancing, reverse mortgage. Maybe you think that you are stuck in the cycle of renting because you can't afford a down payment. That's not always the case. There are some instances where you don't need a down payment. They can help you with that. Think of them as financial counselors of sorts. You learn a lot about not just the home loan process, but how to control your own credit score. Prior to me years ago, now going through the process, I obviously understood the concept of credit score, knew my credit score, but I didn't really realize how. Well, let me put it this way. I thought it was much, much more difficult to have a positive impact on your credit score. I had in my mind it takes years in order to inch it up if you wanted to. And I learned that that's just not the case at all, that you can have a lot more control over your credit score, and you're never so underwater that it's not worth making a plan. And so they can help you with that as well, help you figure out how to get that credit score up if needed in order to get that home loan or to get a better rate as well. Refinancing, home loans, reverse mortgages. I want a great homeloan.com because you do. I did want to mention, as we noted, the Democrat who called for putting Jews in concentration camps down in Texas, or Zionist, along with former ICE officials, I believe. And she lost her primary. I don't know, prior to her statements regarding the detention centers, how she was doing in the polls. I don't know if this hurt her. I don't know. It may have helped her. She may have been some candidate that was off the radar and would have gotten 7% of the vote. And I think she ended up with like 25 or 30%, somewhere around there. Wasn't that close. But these are instances I'd love to be part of, I guess, or access to her inner circle, to hear the conversations, because it must be perplexing to her that those comments she made got such backlash within her own party. When you've got Mamdani out there who's openly said that that Islam should override certain federal laws, particularly when it comes to immigration and illegal immigration, that our American laws should be subservient to the laws of Islam. Pals around with terrorists. Said he's supportive of global jihad. Of course, he tried to walk that back a little bit. You've got sprinklings of these openly anti-Semitic Democrats all across the country, and they're not all as high profile as Mamdani. You got Ilhan Omar. She's a sitting member of Congress that by all appearances is as corrupt can be, and talks about, all the stereotypes about, Jews. It's all about the Benjamin. It's all about the money. I mean, all of these anti-Semitic stereotypes of Jewish people. Then Plattner up there, who gets a full-blown Nazi tattoo. That's kind of a commitment. I'm not talking about a temporary tattoo, and he had it for 17 years before finally he thought, I guess he got tired of people asking about it and was running for office, so he had to cover it up. So here's this gal, and I think she's a council member somewhere, running in the primary for Congress, and she makes comments that are not out of step with so many other elected Democrats and Democrat candidates. Yet she gets this big blowback, and I can only imagine how perplexing that must be for her. Now, it's understandable to be perplexing, and you may be perplexed as well, but I can tell you exactly why this is, because we've seen this pattern before. prior to a primary, Democrats do come out against it and call them out. Mamdani was the same way. The New York Times editorial board wrote a piece warning Democrats against voting for Mamdani. You had elected Democrats in Congress saying we cannot have somebody so anti-Semitic be a member of Congress, let alone a Democrat member of Congress. But once it's a choice between an anti-Semite or a Republican, they have such hatred in their hearts for political opposition. To them, it's a no-brainer. This is the same thing that's going on in Maine right now. In fact, there's one Democrat congressman who said he feels it's disqualifying if you're going to knowingly get a Nazi tattoo to be in Congress. Democrats are railing on this guy because they say, well, he's then encouraging people to vote for the Republican, which he is saying, oh, no, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that. Think how sick you have to be to openly acknowledge that you would rather have a Nazi-loving psychopath in Congress before you would reach across the aisle and accept a Republican. While Republicans like Susan Collins are obsessed with reaching across the aisle to Democrats. But, to my point, Plattner, when he still had a primary, there were a lot of Democrats that were saying, well, clearly we can't have this guy. The other Democrat that was in the race is the current Democrat mayor, who's relatively popular in Maine. But once the Nazi stuff came out, Democrat activists got very excited through their support behind him, and so she dropped out. And once he became the only Democrat, they're all full support. Because it's all about winning for them. And if there's a period of time, and by the way, the Nazi thing itself doesn't even bother them. They just fear that it might hurt them in a general election or hurt their overall brand with Middle America. But once the nomination gets secure, they're all in. They don't care if it's a Nazi. They don't care if it's a communist. They don't care if none of that makes any difference to them. It's all about power. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. Springfield Livestock Marketing Center. I have been browsing their social media quite a bit over the last couple of days. They are gearing up for their 2-day horse sale on Friday and Saturday. Now, do I need a horse, a donkey, or a mule? No. Do I keep looking? Yes, I do. But they will also be auctioning off saddles, tack, and outside items as well. Now, if you are looking to sell, their consignment advertising deadline is today at noon. Just a heads up on that. Now, you can still consign after that deadline. Your horse or your items just may not be featured on their social media, but it still allows you to be front of line day of sales. Now, if you'll be out of town, but you still want to attend, you can do that virtually. They offer live streaming and online bidding options. To check out other upcoming sales, visit their website, springfieldlivestock.com. And of course, you can find all of the contact information for Springfield Livestock Marketing Center under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Coming up in the next hour, we'll kick things off with reading some of your text messages regarding the new app at Cox, and many of you notated that not only is Mercy utilizing that as well, but Freeman Hospital, which is over in Joplin, does. And just wanted to read some of your comments on it. Just don't have time to get them all. And I probably could, but I'd have to rush it, and I just don't want to do that. Also want to talk about James Tallarico, the Democrat that we're told is, just like Beto O'Rourke, he is going to turn Texas blue. Tallarico is the Senate candidate for the Democrats that will be taking on Paxton, and he has once again he's used faith and Jesus to support abortion, and his argument is that, well, because Jesus didn't in the Bible specifically say don't have an abortion, that means it's okay. Jesus also didn't say don't rape giraffes. I mean, there's a little common sense involved here. He does cover killing. That's sort of covered. So, Democrat Party 2026. News in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 1041. My name is Nick Reed, Pyramid Roofing Company, text line 447 KSGF. I keep seeing these headlines. Here's Cornyn. This is today's show. Surprise upset in Texas GOP primary. Was this a surprise? Who is this a surprise? I'm not saying that it was an absolute given, and I will say the margin was probably larger than some thought it would be, but the idea that somehow this was some massive upset that no one saw coming, no, that's a little out of touch with reality. I spoke in the last hour segment about the new app at Cox and gave it praise based off of my personal experience, feeling that given how much criticism the medical industry gets today, much of it is, in my assessment, beyond their control. It's, once government got involved, government gets involved in anything, and suddenly government becomes the patient. Government becomes the number one priority because they have the power to shut you down. They have the power to take money away from you, and the patient no longer is the top priority by way of just self-survival as an industry. And so I get why it is the way that it is. But because of that, the medical industry, they suffer a lot of criticisms, and the app usage, this new app rollout, and I just had a really good experience. And so I wanted to share that. I got some text messages in from you all and wanted to share those from the Pyramid Roofing Company text line. And they're mixed. Let's go to the prep page here. I was not prepared. On the Cox Health My Chart app, this is just one small part of an entirely new medical records and software system. I also thought it was better on the patient side. There's a little more of a learning curve on the clinical side. Prior to the launch of the app, my wife had told me she had a conversation with someone at Cox as they were getting ready to unroll the new system, and had expressed her great hope that it was going to make things ultimately, once learned, a lot more efficient. And so it's not just on the patient side. And I mentioned just my most recent experience. I'm telling you, from mine, walk in, the app, you want to check in. Yeah, boom. The gal, because I went to sit down, and she's like, "Can I help you?" I said, "Well, I think I checked in on the app," and she said name, gave it to her, and she said, "Someone will be right with you." Maybe 30 seconds. Then when I got into the room itself, I mean, just of course, take your vitals and all that stuff. Seems like it's always 20 minutes before the doctor comes in, maybe 3. And then after that, doing just an annual round of blood tests. Usually seems as if I sit down there for 20 minutes. Maybe 90 seconds. Now, I don't know if all of that is because of the new system, but if it is, that clearly is having an impact on efficiency in a positive way. Another text, Cox sucks. I had to really enunciate there. I've experienced the failed Obamacare in the past month, trying to get help for my elderly mom. No one will listen, and they don't seem to know any medical history, even though they're supposed to have it all. It is a joke. And as I mentioned, when you get the government component in there, in a lot of ways, the industry itself is a victim. I just had to do the insurance and ID thing yesterday, had to take my picture again. I'm with you, Nick, on the My Chart app with Cox. I use it all the time, and I can pull information from at any time. It really works well. Another saying, morning, Nick and Sarah. Yep, Epic. That's the I guess, company behind the app. My wife, who works at Cox, loved the transition to the new system, but now that it's in place, once you've updated, it really works. Mercy has the same system, Epic, that Cox implemented. They are also implementing it at Freeman Hospital in Joplin. While the app is really good, the staff had a harder transition. My sister decided to retire from Freeman instead of learning the new system. Another husband has elderly parents he takes care of. Each time they have an appointment, it takes 30 minutes to check in on the app. Appointments have been messed up when they arrive. Not easy to deal with when parents are 91 and 93. Another, I thought I might add to your perspective on what is happening at Cox. Cox just went through a complete software upgrade that included the app in the entire hospital. The switch was flipped in one day. And there were a few bumps, but overall went smoothly. It's good to hear that you had a good experience with the app. I hope all future experiences go as well, as do I. And yes, the app finally, let's see, not sure if you've ever looked up Epic, the app developer, and their crazy huge campus outside of Madison, Wisconsin. It's worth a look. And yes, the app finally got better. At first, it was not great. I'm imagining layoffs soon of administration staff who check people in, however. I don't know that that will happen. I think that there's probably plenty for them to do, but I could be completely wrong, whether it's in the checking in or otherwise. I bet you this. I bet that they will be happier. I will tell you now, I have noticed a trend over time, which I completely understand, and that is that your first person of interaction, oftentimes at the doctor's office, in my experience, were not people that seem to really be enjoying their jobs. And I get it. You're dealing with people who probably don't want to be there anyhow, but they're annoyed because you're having to ask them 1,000 questions that they've already answered 1,000 times. You're asking them for updated insurance information, and then, they don't have the car. It was this really, I remember I had a digital version, and so you'd think that would be easy. No, I had to email it to this email address, and then they would have to, it was just so cumbersome. So I'm aggravated, and you're dealing with people that you are aggravating on a daily basis. And they're aggravated at you. They're unhappy with you. And I remember at some point just recognizing it seems as if when I have these interactions with people at the front desk, when you check in the doctor's office, they just seem kind of on the verge of being miserable. But I understood why. And it may not be that way everywhere. I would like to think that this new way of doing things is going to, once everyone sort of gets in the loop on it in terms of patients, that it's going to make life a lot better for them as well. Because if life is better for them, then it's going to be better for you as a patient and better for me. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see a slight chance for afternoon showers, otherwise partly sunny with a high near 82. Tonight, a chance of showers and thunderstorms with a low around 64. For your Thursday, a 70% chance of showers and thunderstorms with a high near 79. And taking a look at Friday, a 90% chance of showers and thunderstorms with a high near 78.
That Landis talking about World Cup in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. I just heard the tail end of it, but last night I saw him cover a pretty extensive story about World Cup in Kansas City. And I'm not sure there's some, he cited, official World Cup site that has all of the hosting cities, and Kansas City was listed as the worst one.
Aww.
The worst to experience the World Cup. Aww. And they had a clip of some gal speaking about all things World Cup from Kansas City. I don't know exactly what her title was. And she was asked about it, and I thought she handled it pretty well. She goes, well, some of the things that they noted, they're pretty important matrix, but we like to think that we do have a lot of stuff to offer. And it cited stuff which, it's not like overall personality, but the airport, the ease of getting to the airport. I think the number of flights that come in and out. It's, some of the other cities are bigger hubs. Walkability, like the ability from whatever hotel you're at to be able to get to so many different places. But yeah, it was kind of like, oh, well, that's sad. What can you do other than just totally embrace it? They are saying that I think they were very nervous because hotels were not selling the way that they had thought. And they're claiming now that they are feeling a little less nervous. They have these massive expectations of all of these people coming in, all of this money being spent. And they found that what they assumed would be all these hotel rooms getting booked up, it just was not happening. And the report that Mike Landis had interviewed someone with one of the hotels, and he said, well, it's now picking up a little bit. Yeah, it's not where we want it to be. One of the other, and it's been this fluid situation, with the World Cup, particularly dealing with people coming from other countries and different laws in terms of when bars can and can't be open. The bars were at one point going to be open for 23 hours a day in Kansas City. And then the mayor up and was like, nope, it's going to be the way it always is. And you had a lot of these owners of bars saying, we have been waiting for this. Like this is going to cost us a lot of money. You are kicking us in the gut. And he's backed off of that just a little bit. And I think now they're going to allow the bars to stay open, not 23 hours as initially was expected, but until, a few hours later than normal, or maybe 3. And I think that's still a little bit fluid, but I think some of that adjustment may have been because things aren't moving along as quickly in terms of stuff booking up, and they're just a little bit worried that what they had projected in terms of dollars being spent in the Kansas City area because of the World Cup may not necessarily come to be. And it doesn't help, of course, when there's some listing saying the last place you want to experience the World Cup is Kansas City. It's the worst one. But because if you are from somewhere throughout the world and you're just wanting to go and figure out where it is that you're going to go, that could make a difference. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Color 10, they don't have that story up yet. When I saw Mike Landis, because I was curious about some of the breakdown of why it is that Kansas City was listed as the least favorable place to experience the World Cup of all the hosting cities. And because usually when they do a story in the afternoon or evening, it won't get up on the site until maybe in the morning or so. But I don't see it up there yet because I'm going to be interested to sort of delve into what matrix they use to make that. They mentioned a couple of things. One of them, again, if I remember, was the airport. Not as many direct flights to the Kansas City airport as you're going to have some of the other hubs. Mass transportation may have been another one. And so there were a number of them there. But yeah, I'm gonna have to watch for that story. Ozarks First. I didn't see it.
Fox 4 KC has something that's kind of similar to that.
Mm.
But so they talked travel time to the stadium.
You know what? I think actually it was a Fox 4 story that they must be a Nexstar or whatever affiliated.
Maybe.
So I think that it was a Fox 4 story. So what were the reasons?
So the study identified factors including travel time to the stadium, limited amenities around the venue as reasons for low ranking. And then they also talked about expected match day temperatures, bar density near the stadium, and hotel availability.
Hotel availability. I mean, like I said, that was one of their concerns is they haven't been booking up. Now, I don't know what it's been for other cities. The heat factor, though, I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that as being one. But, I mean, get over it, really. Well, I mean, it's coming up. Anyhow.
Yeah, when are the...
I think it's just a couple weeks away. I used to be so into this stuff, and I'm not any longer.
The first game, it looks like, is June 16th. So, yeah, it's right around the corner.
Yeah, and I don't know if the games, if they've sold out. I would think that they would have. With the hotel rooms not booking up, I just don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll look into it. I don't know. I'm sure the girl child would like to go. If it were easy and I knew the parking was going to be easy, then I might consider going. But I did, man. I used to be into all that stuff, and I don't know what happened.
It says the top cities, the top 5 host cities are Vancouver, Toronto, Seattle, Mexico City, and Atlanta.
All right.
There you have it.
Okay.
For Kansas City.
Yeah. I like Kansas City.
I do
mean,
too.
It's got its problems. That mayor, I think, is kind of an idiot.
Well, yeah.
For a number of different reasons. A lot of the people who run the city, but the thing about it is, in my mind, when I am there, and we like to find a lot of the restaurants that are locally owned, and just the people. It's going to sound like a cliche, but they're just very Midwestern and nice and different than in my mind when I go to Kansas City, St. Louis, in terms of just overall personality. And I like Kansas City. I like it up there. I like visiting Kansas City. And so my once upon a time, like, ugh, who wants to go there? Who wants to, just when you're young and you think you want to live in the city. And then I think a lot of times you want nothing to do with the city, but I like Kansas City. That's what I have to say about that. Let's talk about abortion. Texas Dem nominee James Tallarico invokes faith to defend abortion rights because he says the Bible is silent on abortion. Well, not really. The whole thing about killing innocent people, it's kind of covered. Now, if you want to totally and completely deny science and pretend as if it isn't living, then you can live in your cave, because that is prehistoric mentality. That is pre-science. That is so far removed from everything we know. It's so far removed that you have, as horrific as I believe this is, some liberals now acknowledging, yes, it is murder, but they still support it. And many of those people, ironically, talk about the horrors of slavery and the original sin, and it's the greatest stain. I would disagree. Slavery, horrific, bad, about as bad as you can get, other than, if you had to rank, Killing unborn children, I would probably put that at the top. And I find it bizarre that people who love to run around and trash on the United States because of our history of slavery support killing children. And while it is refreshing that some people on the left are at least acknowledging that the science of it and the reality that, yes, I recognize this is a living human being. So that's refreshing. But the fact that then instead of being like, and once I realized that, I was like, abortion's wrong, but leaning into it. That being said, in the timeline of humanity, it's not unheard of in which you had certain groups of people believing that other groups of people should be eliminated if one group wants them eliminated. Whether it's gas chambers or firing squads or abortion clinics, it's the same mindset. There were people during the slavery era that would cherry pick Bible verses in order to justify slavery. Now, I think it is an interesting approach to say that you support something because it's not specifically mentioned in the Bible. Again, it is mentioned because killing, murder, sort of covered. But even if you want to take that approach, there are a lot of things that aren't specifically mentioned in the Bible that you just know are wrong because they're covered by a larger umbrella. So, yes, specifically specifically abortion, murder in that form, it may not be broken down to that, but it's covered with murder. It's like, stealing, right? We recognize that's a sin. Thou shalt not steal. Now, does it specifically say embezzle? Does it specifically say grand theft auto? Well, it doesn't. Jesus never specifically talked about those categories of stealing, so I guess that means it's okay. That's Tallarico's position here. Well, he didn't say abortion murder was right. Just, murder. God talked about murder, and the Bible talks about murder, but not specifically. What a psychopath. This guy's sick. He said, I don't believe it's a place for the state. That was the same argument Democrats made about slavery. It's a property rights issue. Government has no say in it. So that this is consistent within the Democrat Party. My property, my choice. My slaves, I own them. Here's the paperwork that shows I own this individual. Now, much like with abortion, what they do is they dismiss the fact that it's a human being. And so they try and apply a principle that is not applicable to another human being. So, for example, they say, well, don't you believe in property rights? Yeah, but not of other humans. My body, my choice. Well, but it's not really your body, it's another human. So that principle does not apply. He goes on to say the Bible is silent on abortion, and when that happens, with a social issue as important as abortion, we Christians have to take Scripture as a whole. So he takes it a step further. He's telling Christians, which, if you notice, the separation of church and state is apparently not relevant for Democrats in this capacity when you somehow manage to demonically use the Bible in order to tell Christians that they should support killing unborn babies. I know all sins are equal in the eyes of God, and I know no single one of us human being is better than another when it comes to that component and how it is that God sees us. But man, I got to tell you, using the word of God to try to convince people of supporting something so demonic as taking away a human life created by God. Just deciding, nah, don't think so. Sorry, God. They talk about a special place in hell, and I suppose if there is, probably a section for those people. Where are we? Oh, so we still have traffic. Okay. We'll just take a quick break after traffic here. And then one of what has been seen as a potential Democrat hopeful for the presidency is a guy by the name of Wes Moore. He's in Maryland, and he's already dealt with some issues because, like a lot of Democrats, when you start digging into their biography or their autobiography, it turns out a lot of the stuff isn't true, and oftentimes needless stuff. I mean, just stuff like, why would you even make that stuff up? But he recently signed a Glock ban into law. Now, this comes after the governor of Virginia, Spanberger, also signed a bill outlawing the sale, manufacture, and transfer of what she calls assault firearms. And increasingly, we're watching the party that claims Donald Trump is a fascist just completely ignoring the parts of the Constitution they don't like and taking away the people's power to defend themselves. But it's Donald Trump, of course, who's the authoritarian fascist.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see a slight chance for afternoon showers, otherwise partly sunny skies with a high near 82. Tonight, a chance of showers and thunderstorms with a low around 64. For your Thursday, a 70% chance of showers and thunderstorms with a high near 79. And taking a look at Friday, a 90% chance of showers and thunderstorms with a high near 78.
Were there any commercials that you love as much as the Bluebell
Honestly,
homemade
that's
ice
the best.
cream? I mean, I don't think there's any that you love more than that. Anytime those commercials come on, you can feel the mood shift in the studio. It doesn't matter.
Brightens my day when I hear the Bluebell commercial.
I can feel it.
It's so good.
You could get the most horrific, worst news in the world and just be in the middle of processing it, and then one of those Bluebell commercials come on, that soothing song that has you sitting on the front porch eating ice cream right out of the container, and everything melts away for you.
Say every single time I hear that commercial during the morning show, I always say, "Oh, it's going to be a good day, Nick."
This is true. She does every single time.
Just makes me happy.
Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. We recently had the pleasure of working with Emily Johnson, top-notch realtor here in Springfield, Missouri. We could not have asked for a better experience. It was probably Bluebell ice cream experience. Emily's expertise, professionalism, unwavering dedication truly set her apart. She listened closely to our needs. She was patient with us during our extended home search, provided invaluable insights into Springfield, as well as Nix, Ozark, Stratford, Willer, Republic, helping us make informed decisions every step of the way. Emily even helped us coordinate renovations, connecting us with excellent local contractors and making sure our new home is exactly how we envisioned it. Her strong negotiating skills saved us significant money, making the process seamless from beginning to end. We highly recommend Emily Johnson to anyone needing an exceptional realtor in Springfield. I don't know what more she could do after reading that review, but you can hear or read, rather, so many other reviews, either on Zillow or social media. You just Google reviews Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, and you'll see a lot of very detailed experiences that result in people telling you, hey, if you got to buy or sell a home, you need Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Governor Wes Moore signed legislation Tuesday banning the sale of Glocks and Glock clones into law, making Maryland the second state to enact such a ban. So now, people who set out to murder, be it revenge, money, or just gangbangers, they won't do so, or at least with Glocks, which I guess they won't with anything. I mean, that's the idea here, right? That if you make it illegal for a person to kill someone with a certain type of firearm, then they will no longer kill someone. I would love to have a panel of people who buy into this stuff. Explain how it works exactly. Let's say I'm going to go out and, I don't know, rob a liquor store or shoot a rival gang member. And I'm going to use a Glock to do it. But then I see on the news that the governor has signed a ban saying I can't have a Glock anymore. Is the thought that I will no longer commit that murder? Is that what the thought is? Does it also impact people who have non-Glock firearms, other types of firearms? I try to figure out how that plays out. I mean, none of this makes sense. This is the great frustration, I think, that I know that a lot of people have, particularly once you get past the whole Republican and Democrat thing. This is not a Republican. It's frankly, I mean, it is a constitutional thing, but it also isn't, even if it weren't. Something listed in the Constitution as a God-given right that should not be touched by government, it still wouldn't make sense to do this. April 9th, 2026, Breitbart News reported Maryland House followed the state Senate lead and passed a ban on Glocks and other handguns that Democrats describe as machine gun convertible. Now, of course, there's a lot of constitutional questions here, which are irrelevant to the Democrat Party, the party that claims Donald Trump is a danger to the Constitution. At the same time, you have multiple lawsuits have been filed in both state and federal court since Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger signed a bill outlawing the sale, manufacture, and transfer of so-called assault firearms and large-capacity magazines, as well as another measure prohibiting the carrying of assault firearms in most public spaces. So now, this will clearly stop drive-by shootings, stop any sort of shootings in public. That's how the mind of a person on the left operates. I'm going to go spray up a mall. Oh, dadgummit. At midnight last night, the new law went into place saying that I can't carry my assault firearm in a public space. What am I going to do now? Golly gee willikers. The detachment from reality, from human behavior. If these sorts of authoritarian laws actually worked, and we couldn't really necessarily figure out why, at least you could say, well, look, it works. Look at the cities and how they're the safest in the country. Look at the cities with all these strict gun control laws, and look how safe it is. I mean, you're much safer walking through a Democrat-run city where it's illegal to have firearms in public and it's illegal to have this firearm and that firearm than countries with less restrictive firearm laws. I don't understand why we have such a difficult time with this. It doesn't work. In fact, things get worse when you have more of these laws in place. Now, in Virginia, there have been a number of prosecutors who have publicly stated that they have no plans on enforcing the laws against peaceful citizens, because that, of course, is the problem. That's who always gets targeted. It's the peaceful citizen. The other problem with this equation that, listen, this is the thing. This is all BS, and Democrats know it's BS. Let's say somehow Democrats haven't figured out that this doesn't work based off the results. All right, let's just give them benefit of the doubt and say that they're complete morons. And that they just somehow have lost the ability to observe that these results exist. The other problem here is the fact that when these people do break the law, it's the Democrats who let them off the hook. Lets them off. So they set up this system in which they claim we have to have these laws in place. We must have them in place in order to make the streets safer. But then when you have some gang-banging murderer out there spray up a schoolyard or whatever, they just give them a slap on the wrist. There was a prosecutor a few years ago in Chicago that refused to prosecute two gangbangers that got into a gunfight out in public. I think it was a female. Her rationale was, well, because they both willingly participated in the gunfight. What is the point in having gun control laws if you don't enforce them anyhow? This is like pushing for banning alcohol because alcohol leads to all problems, and we just have to ban alcohol, and then we will solve all of these problems. But then every time someone gets caught with alcohol, you don't do anything. No matter how many times they get caught, throwing keggers, drunk driving, like, oh, well. Those of you on the left that genuinely believe somehow magically gun control laws are going to make things better, why do you think that then Democrat prosecutors do not push to enforce those laws? I think it was under the Biden administration, the statistics on the number of federal firearm laws that the under Merrick Garland that they actually prosecuted. I think it was in the teens. It was like 8% or 12% or something. And if you don't know the answer to why it is that they let him back out, I'll tell you, because then they can use that as an excuse to create more laws. They create these scenarios. They create a law that law-abiding citizens abide by, which makes them future victims, and then the people who victimize it, the Democrat prosecutors, put them right back on the street so that they can create more victims, which allows them to call for more gun control laws, which means more citizens that are law-abiding will be disarmed, while those very criminals create more victims, and then they're let right back out on the street. It's a cycle. It's almost the same approach that the Southern Poverty Law Center has taken. They raise money because of all of these racist organizations out there, but then they use the money to create the racist organizations that they can then say, see, look how bad it is, and raise more money off of it. Gun control law is the same thing. And I'm telling you, if you believe that Democrats care about violence, and that's why it is that they push for gun control laws, you are a fool. They have duped you. Because if they really believed it, they would enforce the law. And they don't. They play you for fools. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Take it away, Sarah Myers.
Thank you. The Pyramid Roofing Company. We've got another rainy week in the Ozarks, and if you are experiencing roof issues, make sure that you go with a trusted roofing company. And my go-to recommendation is always Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, they make the roofing process as simple and stress-free as possible. They offer emergency tarping services if you need them, free roof inspections, and they work with you through that insurance process. They read through your policy to make sure that everything gets covered that needs to be covered, and they make your adjuster meeting a top priority. Now, if you experience roof problems over the next couple of days, or you have damage from the hailstorm last month, make sure that you reach out to Josh today, schedule that free roof inspection. You can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Joe Biden, he is suing the Department of Justice to stop the release of those audio recordings of him providing classified information illegally to the ghostwriter. I'm sure he is. The lawsuit comes ahead of the department's planned June 15th release of the materials to the U.S. House Judiciary Committee and the Conservative Heritage Foundation, which requested the information under the Freedom of Information Act. Former President Joe Biden sued the department yesterday to block the release of recordings and transcripts from interviews he gave to a ghostwriter for his 2017 memoir, which were included in a special counsel probe regarding his handling of classified materials after he served as vice president. Now, for those of you that don't remember, what the special investigator found was that, yes, he did, in fact, illegally leak or give classified information to the ghostwriter. But this was the same special counsel that said he's also a senile old man, and so there's no point in prosecuting him. So we don't get the timeline confused. That was during the period of time Democrats still claimed he was fine. This moment in history I like to recall because after the Democrats finally had to admit, for the purposes of the general election, that Joe Biden was senile, and they would run around saying, well, no one knew. There were no signs. There was a special prosecutor that literally said he is too senile to prosecute for this crime. That's how he got off. That was his get out of jail free card for leaking the classified information, was that he was senile. He was dementia ridden. Oh, that's not a clue. So the lawsuit comes ahead of this information, which is set to be released. The recordings were part of Biden's 2017 memoir, in which he detailed his decision to pursue the presidency while Beau fought brain cancer and so forth. But what he's trying to prevent the release of this information, which, like I said, we all know why. What is he going to claim? Well, it shouldn't be released because there's classified information in it. Well, I suppose if that's the case, it sort of proves that you were guilty, doesn't it? Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed, a traffic update. Oh, boy. Okay, we got hour 3 coming up. Uh, there was a somewhat interesting story about a guy locally here who I think he was relatively young, and he broke into the Immaculate Conception. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
And set it on fire, or attempted to set it on fire. It didn't do any sort of.
Yeah, this happened Friday, right?
Yes, and some of the reasons he said that he did it I thought were a little bit interesting, so we'll talk about that coming up and more. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 1041. Hey, welcome everyone. Streaming live, KSGF.com or on YouTube. You want to watch the show, you can do that at Springfield's Talk 1041. And we've got podcast at KSGF.com. We've got podcast at the KSGF app and most other places that you can find the podcast. There's this story of a guy accused of burglarizing, setting fire to the Springfield Catholic Elementary School. KY3 reporting that the man faces charges for burglarizing the Springfield Catholic Elementary School, setting it on fire. Officers arrested him shortly after the incident. Isaac Cass faces second-degree arson, second-degree burglary charges, both Class D felonies in the state of Missouri. Each charge carries a maximum sentence of 7 years in prison. I want to read to you the report here, or this story, rather. Police responded to the fire at Immaculate Conception in the 3500 block of South Fremont Friday, May 22nd, around 5 a.m. after an officer nearby heard the fire alarm called for backup. Investigators say surveillance footage showed Cass walking around in the hallways, tearing down nameplates for classrooms, and at one point kicking over a table after sitting at it for some time. They say it showed he entered and later exited the teacher's lounge area. Smoke was eventually observed near the ceiling. Footage showed that Cass carried papers into the room, as well as carrying books near the room. Investigators say he damaged a picture of Jesus in a frame and damaged 3 statues of Mary. Investigators say Cass initially provided short answers until he eventually indicated he, quote, lit something on fire. They say he stated that he had observed messed up ritualistic blank that he said had upset him. When asked how he got into the building, investigators say Cass said, "I broke in." Investigators say Cass admitted he threw a rock at the window to make entry and entered through the window. They say he looked back at the fire after he said it. Investigators say Cass made statements that he believed in the separation of church and state, and that he did not appreciate a church being present with the school. They say he stated that he believed the Bible was being pushed down, quote, people's throats. Investigators say that Cass showed erratic behavior during the interview and at several points denied knowledge of the fire while also making statements at other times about a teacher's lounge. He mentioned Mary statues at one point and a painting that he described as dull. Investigators say he appeared to speak to the wall or someone while looking away from the detectives, and at one point stated he was playing poker before making several more references to poker strategies. After Cass was arrested, investigators say they reviewed clothing that was seized by officers during the booking process at the Greene County Jail. The clothing observed appeared consistent with surveillance footage, with the exception of the white cap he had worn. Upon reviewing body-worn camera footage from a prior interaction, investigators recognized the man as Cass, and he was wearing a shirt, pants, and white cap attached to his left hip that were consistent with the clothing observed being worn by Cass during the incident. The shirt and pants in the body-worn camera footage also appeared consistent with the shirt and pants seized from Cass at the Greene County Jail. And so that is the KY3 story on there. Does anybody know what's missing from the story? Anything not there? You notice there's absolutely no reference to potential hate crime. 0. Now, of course, we have no idea. I mean, he used a lot of the talking points that we hear from people who are anti-Christian, shoving religions down our throat, the myth of separation of church and state as part of our constitutional founding, these left-wing talking points by individuals. And, I mean, it's clear by his own admission here, he did this because he hated the religion. Yet no mention of hate crime. Isn't that interesting? See, what is consistent here is that, and I'm sure most of you are aware of this, if we're talking about a Christian church and there is some sort of vandalism, attempt to burn it down, out of the gate reporting, like reporting of the initial incident, never is there any talk about hate crime. Now, if there is a race component to it, if, for example, and we've seen this right here in Springfield. A couple years ago, one of the churches that was a predominantly black church had some vandalism, and right out of the gate, the theme is hate crime. Potential hate crime. Oh, interview people about hatred and racism and so forth. That's the entire theme because you had a race component. Or we saw a few years ago also in Springfield some vandalism at the mosque. Immediately, Islamophobia right out of the gate. In fact, I think there was a statement from, I don't remember if it was the mayor, the city. I mean, the media outlets, they run around, talk to other religious leaders, so everybody can talk about how clearly this is some sort of hate crime. But if it is a church that doesn't have a racial component in terms of minority status, a white church, there's never any thought, oh, it was probably just some person doing it. I'm sure, probably just out of his mind or drunk or who knows. Oh, so maybe he does hate Jesus and Christians, but I mean, that's different in their minds somehow. Hating Christians, that's no big deal. I went back just out of curiosity because I was remembering the huge to-do and the outcry against religious discrimination when there was some vandalism at the Islamic Center in Springfield. Nothing that we're getting with this current story of trying to burn down a Catholic church because of Christianity, like being anti-Christian. And, I remember at the time, it was pretty vague on details. So I found a story that did list some of the details about what vandalism was actually done in terms of like the graffiti on the Islamic Center at the time. This was back, I said a couple years ago, it's 2011. The graffiti included explicit and offensive language in addition to such statements as queer insurrection, it's okay to be gay, bash back, now is our time, and you bash us in Pakistan, we bash here. So the messaging clearly was gay specifically. I don't know that at the time it would be categorized as LGBTQ, but the messaging here was they felt as if culturally within the Islamic Center that that they were targeted, and when gay bashing in Pakistan was occurring, and so this was their way of hitting back. And I find it interesting that we never really learned that angle of it during the news coverage at the time. That it was from a left-wing cultural perspective, according to the graffiti on the Islamic center in Springfield back in 2011 when that incident occurred. Just a couple interesting observations regarding how it is that media, local as well, covers any sort of acts of vandalism against religious institutions and how different the coverage and the tone and the narrative can be based on whom the parishioners are. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see a slight chance for afternoon showers, otherwise partly sunny with a high near 82. Tonight, a chance of showers and thunderstorms with a low around 64. For your Thursday, a 70% chance of showers and thunderstorms with a high near 79. And taking a look at Friday, we'll see a 90% chance of showers and thunderstorms with a high near 78.
Now, this is a couple days ago, but one of the items that grabbed attention was while you had a number of people were honoring those who gave their lives for their country, this being Memorial Day, you had a number of Democrats. Well, some of them were honoring George Floyd. You had the mayor of whatever city Floyd was given the statue in when he fought with police and died, and all that to do. That's what he did. He honored George Floyd on Memorial Day. You also had a number of Democrats go to an ICE facility claiming, without any evidence whatsoever, that there were numerous illegal immigrants, many of which were criminals, in there that were on a hunger strike because the conditions were so deplorable. Which, to me, wouldn't that just make it worse? I mean, I'm at this point, and I'm just like, fine, don't eat. Now, the DHS has said none of this is true. There's no evidence this is true. And in fact, when it comes to the standards regarding medical care and food, they are actually higher at these ICE detention centers than they are at prisons. So in other words, these people are treated better than American citizens who are in prison. Now, the first thought I had whenever they decided to utilize Memorial Day for this event was, no surprise. But what I've long noted, the only time you ever see Democrats have a rally, demand to see someone, demand access to someone, it's always somebody who is a criminal, a violent criminal, somebody who's not an American citizen. It's never for Americans. When was the last time you saw Democrats hold a rally or a press conference for someone that was a law-abiding American citizen that had been victimized by someone, be it government or be it, some sort of criminal, illegal or otherwise? They never do that. Even when it comes to people that are in jail, they don't. As it's been noted that the standard care for people who are in this country illegally in detention centers is a higher standard than American citizens in prison. Yet, have we ever heard Democrats pitch a fit about the quality of life in prison? In fact, there are a number of female prisoners who have filed lawsuits because these Democrat-run states force them to be in cells with men who identify as women and are in prison for rape. Now, I'm not one who believes that life in jail should be a vacation, but I also don't think that a woman should be forced to be housed with a male rapist prisoner simply because he identifies as female. And that is going on in this country, and it has been for years. You don't see Democrats protesting that, even when women are the victims. Nope. See, those are American citizens. You got to find the illegal gangbangers, the human traffickers, the people that are killing off untold numbers of Americans by running drugs into this country. This is who they go to honor. This is who they go and they clutch their pearls and they just will sacrifice their own safety and health at times in order to bring attention to these people. It's never American law-abiding citizens. And in this particular instance, it's very stark because it's a day reserved for honoring Americans who are no longer with us on this planet but served our country. This is like Joe Biden on Easter deciding to make it a day about LGBTQ or transgenderism. It's almost as if they want to drive home the point that if you serve the country, they don't care about you. If you're an American citizen, they don't care about you. If you are some just normal person that wants to live your life, maybe get a college education, get married, start a family, have a nice family, live life, they don't care about you. And they will prove it by protesting for the right to visit with someone who murdered people like that. Part of the reason that this is in New Jersey that Democrats have started this again, and I'm telling you why. Going into the midterm elections here, they felt that they were really firing on all cylinders when they had riots going in Minnesota. And when they got their activists all worked up enough to where they came out into the streets, lit things on fire, tried to run over police officers, fought with police officers. I'm telling you, when they get people killed, in their minds, they're firing on all cylinders. It's gangbusters. It's bonus time. And once Trump got Horman in there, and then Horman worked out a deal with Minnesota. Listen, we want to be gone too. Stop releasing illegals into the streets. Just give them to us. And that deal was made, which is all that the Trump administration wanted to begin with, which showed that all of that, including the death of those two individuals, were completely 100% unnecessary. unnecessary, deliberately done by the left in order to create an issue. And once they agreed to stop releasing violent criminals who are in this country illegally into the streets and instead turning them over to ICE, then, okay. Now, what's the downside? And see, this is the tell. Oh, we just want all of this stop. The left, oh, we just want peace. We want the violence to stop. Well, they don't feel like they're getting any ground. They're not putting on a show for the American people to show how authoritarian the Trump administration is. They're not giving visuals of the Nazis running people over. They're trying to start it up again. And it's being led by the governor of New Jersey and one of the U.S. senators. They feel like they've hit a bit of a lull. It's a little difficult to convince the American people that Donald Trump is a Nazi when they're running, in the U.S. Senate, a person who actually loves the Nazis. And so what do? Let's have Minnesota 2.0 in New Jersey. This is how depraved these people are. It is the party of violence. It is the party of terrorists. It is the party of criminals. It is a party that there is no one that they will not step over. No one that they won't convince to give up their own lives if it means their acquisition of power. And this is what we're seeing them try to revive out in New Jersey. I think for a lot of Americans, the upside is they see this and it appears as if it's a pathetic attempt to rehash what was kind of a hot thing for a while but no longer is. And the video, and you got this U.S. Senator Kim, I think is his name, and he got pepper spray in his eyes, and he's sitting down getting water administered. Oh, it's just such a scene. It's almost like a triage is set up because the evil stormtroopers are preventing the good Democrats from getting in to see these people, which incidentally, in response to this, just so average people understood the type of people that the Democrats are rallying on behalf of. Some of the individuals that were at Delaney Hall, this is the ICE facility, Jose de la Olenes, a criminal legal alien from El Salvador, arrested in New Jersey. His criminal history includes homicide. Stephen McKenzie, a criminal illegal alien from Jamaica, arrested in New Jersey. His criminal history included carrying a prohibited weapon. Again, those gun control laws the left cares so much about. Includes homicide, aggravated assault, robbery, and assault. Juan Vasquez Reyes, criminal illegal alien from Mexico, arrested in Bridgetown, New Jersey. Criminal history, homicide. Juan Martinez Valverde, criminal legal alien from Peru, arrested in Elizabeth, New Jersey. Criminal history included sex offense against a child. That's a favorite for the left. Sergio Marquez Abrantes, a criminal illegal alien from Portugal, arrested in Newark, New Jersey. Criminal history includes enticement of a minor for indecent exposure, or indecent purposes, rather. Antonio Gutierrez Arroyo, criminal illegal alien from Mexico, arrested in Bridgetown, New Jersey. Criminal history includes sexual assault and resisting arrest. Samuel Santiago Gomez, criminal illegal alien from Spain, arrested in Freehold, New Jersey. Criminal history includes selling cocaine, drug possession, carrying a prohibited weapon, and aggravated assault. Miguel Gonzalez, criminal illegal alien from Dominican Republic, arrested in Fort Dix, New Jersey. Criminal history, aggravated assault, possession of a weapon, and drug trafficking. Boy, all these possession of weapon charges that the left really cares so much about. Jose Taveras, criminal illegal alien from Dominican Republic, arrested in Newark, New Jersey. Criminal history, aggravated assault, possession of a weapon. Rudy Chavez, homicide, drug trafficking, Glenroy Lewis from Jamaica, weapon, assault, aggravated assault, Luis Contenez Reyes, weapon offense, larceny, burglary, robbery, got drug trafficking, drug manufacturing, aggravated assault. The list goes on and on. These are the animals that are in this ICE detention center that Democrats are rallying to free, trying to create a human chain in order to prevent other murderers and rapists and child molesters from being locked up. These are deplorable human beings who do not care about humanity. They don't care about victims of domestic abuse or rape or child molestation or murder. They don't hold press conferences for those individuals. They don't rally to bring attention to those innocent people who just go to work, go to church, go to school, try to live their lives. No, that's reserved for the people who pin them down, rape them, torture them, and murder them. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Before traffic, Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. Kelsey noted that we have worked with Hunter Hardscapes for over 15 years, both personally and professionally. They've serviced our lawn, treatments, mowing, sprinklers, maintained plants, trees, done several large-scale landscaping projects. Daniel's easy to work with, helps the vision come to life. He can address water drainage issues, add curb appeal, update landscape lighting, or simply maintain your current job. His crew works hard and is respectful. The work that they do does not compare when it comes to quality. Highly recommend. Then Krista said, we had all of our landscaping replaced several months ago. Daniel's very knowledgeable, considerate, kept us informed throughout the project. The plan he drew up greatly improved the appearance of our home. We're still receiving compliments from our neighbors about how good it looks. His crew is friendly, always on time, and worked hard. Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor is one of the most professionally run businesses we have ever used. We highly recommend their business, and I echo all of that. You can see other reviews, before and after pics, plus much more at hunterhardscapes.com. Also, Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see a slight chance for afternoon showers, otherwise partly sunny skies with a high near 82. Tonight, a chance of showers and thunderstorms with a low around 64. For your Thursday, a 70% chance of showers and thunderstorms with a high near 79. And taking a look at Friday, we'll see a 90% chance of showers and thunderstorms with a high near 78.
So I do want to play some actually humorous audio, and the audio itself doesn't necessarily tell the story, but just to, I don't know, fill in a little bit. So I was talking about how these left-wingers, including the Democrat mayor of New Jersey and one of the U.S. senators, have been demanding access to some of the rapists, murderers, and child molesters that are illegally in this country at that detention center in New Jersey. And there's a lot of other activists that are there as well. And they're demanding, of course, the release of these people into the streets. So this is video that is taken, and you'll hear the audio of it. At one point, there are two employees of the detention center that are leaving. And so the security gate opens, and you have these two individuals who, and this is an important part of it, while employees, they are also brown. And the protesters demanding the release of the illegal criminals see these two brown men walking out of the facility, not knowing that they're employees, but making other assumptions, and this is the audio from that.
That's basic. You have to assume. Yeah, just assume that.
So now the video's really funny because on the other side of the fence, there's about four other employees that are security, and one of them literally is bending over laughing. Like they're just, because these idiot protesters, they see some brown people and they assume that they're illegal criminals because, you know, they're brown, and that's in their minds. I mean, that fits the bill. And so they're cheering because they think that whomever's running the ICE facility decided to randomly release some of these illegal criminals into the street, and then they're applauding it. And I mean, you can hear the people like, they work here, you idiots. And we'll get it posted so you can see it. But part of it is the visuals. If you can see, I mean, they are just cracking up at these idiot left-wingers. I'm telling you, and as usual, it's mostly white liberal women who I really am beginning to think there's got to be some sort of test that can be done, because obviously, well, I don't know what percentage of white liberal women, just straight up IQ test. And I'm not trying to be funny or insulting about this, but you listen to these people, they don't even have the ability to have an intellectual debate. They're oftentimes incoherent. They literally just scream sometimes. They scream. If you've ever seen any of these events in which you'll have, a lot of times conservative women will go and try to interview some of these protesters, and they ask probing questions based out of fact and an intellectual curiosity. And oftentimes the response is to get in their face with a megaphone and just scream. Now, these are two very different classes of individuals, intellectually speaking. And consistently, if we're going to keep it to the gender, to women, conservative or libertarian women as well, they are able to, number one, just have a basic conversation. They're able to ask a question, hear a point, perhaps give a counterpoint, engage in discussion. Find me a woman on the left that can do that. They cry. They scream. They name call. They're behavior is in line, I would argue, with that of a 6 to 8-year-old. And I'm not being absurd to make a point here. How is it a 6 to 8-year-old behaves when they don't get their way? The spoiled ones, the entitled ones, they name call, they scream, stomp their feet, yell at the air. These liberal women, they're in their 30s doing this stuff. There's something severely wrong, not just emotionally, but mentally wrong with these people. And some of them, frankly, are in Congress at this point. Springfield's Talk 1041, the Pyramid Roofing Company, text line 447 KSGF. It is Sarah Myers.
That is me.
It's a true story.
It is. Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air, summer is slowly creeping in, and if you've flipped on your AC over the last couple days and it's just not working right, don't wait until summer to get it fixed. For all of your HVAC needs, remember Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. Now, they offer commercial and residential services, and they do everything from your simple maintenance to service calls to new unit installs, and the best part is they are not pushy and they won't try to upsell you. If you want to fix something, they are going to work to fix it to the best of their ability. And honestly, they're just all around great guys. So if it is time to have the Foreman team out to your home, reach out to Russell today. You can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Well, I was trying to find the article associated with this, but I cannot. But I want to play the audio anyhow. This is some left-wing influencer, podcaster, and she's having a discussion about men and, you know, the whole issue of Democrats and masculinity has been something that they've turned into somewhat of a joke. Tim Walz claiming that that's why he was chosen. He was chosen as the vice presidential candidate to bring true masculinity to the campaign. He, on a podcast with Gavin Newsom, argued that Republicans were intimidated by his masculinity. During that podcast, Gavin Newsom just instinctually laughed. When he said it, he thought he was being kind of sarcastic, but he wasn't. He's like, no, I'm serious. And so there's this recognition that Democrats have, that they have a problem with men. Now, the problem, however, with Democrats is they never will acknowledge that they are the problem. So this creates a real situation for them. How do you win over men when they are the problem? And that's somewhat what's being reflected on in this left-wing podcaster regarding the issue of men and masculinity.
We have to go after these MAGA men. One example would be Jesse Waters. Mm-hmm. This man talks incessantly about masculinity. Joe Biden is not masculine because he sucks on soup. What kind of man sucks on a straw? He goes on and on and on so much about the idealized man. And that's a part of fascism, this, propelling this form of toxic masculinity. Why are you so obsessed with men, Jesse Waters? What's all that about? Why are you so obsessed with trans people? Why are you thinking about genitals all the time? Kind of flip the script.
Yeah, that's going to work. All right. Well, first off, those of you that aren't familiar with Jesse Waters, and he's got his own show. I'm more familiar with him when he is on the 5. I mean, it's not sarcasm, but he always, I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. He does, first off, what she's talking about, he's joking. But he's joking while at the same time making a point. He will joke about, for example, what man uses a straw? No man should. That's not Matt, and he's being, he's joking about it. Or Joe Biden eating soup. You can't eat soup as a man. That's not a food. So he's being funny about it. Now, of course, somebody on the left won't understand that because they don't have a sense of humor. Now, at the same time, this is a recognition by Jesse Waters and others that masculinity does exist. And it is something that constantly gets attacked by the left, to the point here. You have one of the more influential individuals in the podcast universe for the left talking about, at this point, they just have to, quote, go after MAGA men and make people understand that masculinity is fascism. And not understanding, but this is true. This is important to get into the mindset of the left here. And to the point I was making is that when the left realizes that they have a problem with a constituency, the problem is not them. The fact that they are losing men in very significant numbers is not anything that they're doing wrong. It's that men are fascist. You have to stop being masculine. You have to change to comply with us. See, we're not, as a political party, the Democrats believe, here to be an extension or representative of you. We are here to be put in power, and then we will tell you what you are supposed to be. And if that includes, which apparently it does now, at least with this left-wing podcaster, and it's not out of line with what a lot of other people on the left say, being masculine is wrong. Regarding what is apparently her perplexed nature of not understanding the obsession with masculinity, here's the thing, that this is the reality. Men who are masculine don't have a thing about it or an obsession with it, or that's just who they are. That's just them. That is their natural state. The obsession is with those on the left who are obsessed with the idea that that is wrong, that you shouldn't be who you are. The very people who run around constantly telling people who are generally weirdos, don't let anyone judge you. You are who you are. Lady Gaga, born this way. Well, unless you're a masculine man, then something's wrong with you. Unless you are actually the thing that you are. This is the weird, messed up mind of the left. The only you should be proud of is if you decide you're something that you're not. But if you embrace the person that you actually are, like a masculine man that's a heterosexual, then there's something wrong with you. That's fascism. Think how twisted that your mind has to be in order to think that way. The only real you is the one that you change to be that isn't you. So if you are a girl who gets convinced you're a guy, oh, that's the real you. If you're someone who, vice versa, And you're a guy and you decide that you're going to identify as a woman. Oh, that's the real you. Born that way. No, actually, that's the opposite way they were born. And if you're an ally of those people, if you are a woman who decides that you want nothing to do with family, you don't want to have any children, you want to live alone your entire life, oh, that's wonderful. But if you just want to fall in love and get married and have kids, the thing that your body naturally does, well, that's horrible. That's awful. What's wrong with you? If you're a man who wants to fall in love with a woman, have kids, provide, take care of her, that's toxic. That's awful. The most natural state of humanity is something that the left presents as being perverted, as toxic, as weird, as part of the patriarchy, while taking the most twisted Rube Goldberg way of presenting yourself and saying that's the wonderful thing, that is who you really are. Up is down, down is up, boy is girl, girl is boy. Meanwhile, the recognition of what just actually is to them somehow is confusing. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Did you have anything else that you had to say?
No.
Okay, I didn't
I did
know.
not.
I forgot. I want to make sure.
Just
that we
have a
covered
good
it.
rest of your day.
Yes.
How about that?
That is a wonderful. Have a bluebell.
Oh, yes. Have a Bluebell Day.
Bluebell Day. The show's not over yet. Now, Ozark's Elder Law. You probably seen Lori firing on all cylinders with her team, billboards, a lot of really clever TV ads.
I was in Bolivar yesterday, and I drove by her office, and I saw her little billboard.
Is that the one on the square?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like in the
yeah.
I
It's not like a billboard, but
a cutout,
yes.
cardboard cutout. Yep, I saw that a couple months ago as well, and yeah, I think she just should have those just kind of pop up. Oh, there she is. Like, where's Waldo? Where's Lori? Where's the person that's going to help me make sure my future is secure? Whether it is you just turned 18, power of attorney stuff, making sure that your assets are protected from the government when there are those moments in time they may be coming for it. Whether it is you going into a nursing home or you passing on and trying to, as best as possible, leave stuff to your family. You know, a lot of times you think, oh, well, I'll just put my house in my kid's name. That way it'll be theirs, and so we don't have the tax implications. That can create entire nightmares that you may never have thought of before. You just need to get with the professionals on this stuff. If you've done it, but it's been 10 years, get a revisit. If you just moved here from another state, every state's different. The laws are different. Ozarks Elder Law, 10 area locations, and the consultation so that you know what you need to do and how much it'll cost. That is a courtesy provided to you. It's public service. OzarksElderLaw.com, also under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com as well. Someone sent me this article from OutdoorLife.com. A radical initiative to ban hunting, fishing, and trapping in Oregon is now one step closer to making the ballot in November. That's an initiative petition that left-wingers have out there, because freedom and stuff. They're not the authoritarians.